You know what's a trip about this book is, and this tends to happen for those who are Bible scholars, for those who are not, it's okay, I'm going to kind of break it down for you, but it tends to be some controversy about which books or which letters rather that Paul actually wrote in the New Testament. There's some of you may have heard that before. Sometimes because they look at how he writes and his style and well maybe he didn't write that or maybe he just wrote half of that or maybe it was somebody who was a scribe. And so there's always debate surrounding the different letters that we attribute to Paul as to whether or not he actually wrote them. And it's the same through the letter to the church in Colossians, because they believe that maybe Paul wasn't the one who wrote it. Here's my problem with that. I can get with you when you're talking about academic reasons why you don't think Paul may have been the writer of this letter, but the primary reason and the primary objection to whether or not Paul actually wrote this letter is one thing. They said that we don't believe that Paul wrote it because it's too deep for Paul. Okay, some of y'all know where I'm going because have you ever had somebody underestimate you? Somebody who thought, that can't possibly be something that she can accomplish or he can accomplish, and maybe that's just too deep. That can't be Paul because it's too deep. As a matter of fact, Paul wrote this prolific letter from a Roman prison. How is it that in prison you can pontificate some of the greatest things that we've ever learned about Jesus Christ? That's because some people simply thought that maybe Paul wasn't as smart as he was, or maybe Paul was an underdog, or maybe Paul was underestimated. Some of y'all looking at me like you don't know what I'm talking about. Have you ever had anybody underestimate you? Who thought that you couldn't be anything and you couldn't do anything, and I know what side of the tracks you come from, and I know you don't have an education, and I know that you think you're all that. I know that sometimes we have to get in a place where we learn that sometimes being underestimated is exactly what we need, because when I'm down, that's when I grow up. A lot of people think maybe he wasn't the guy who wrote that because, that's a little bit too much. That's not the Paul that we know. I like to tell people there's a story, and please for my children and young adults in here, please understand I'm not endorsing this, but some of you all know a little bit of my story. I'll share a little bit more later on in the message. But I was bullied a lot. Most of it was verbal and emotional, and the kids used to pick on me, but every now and then it actually got physical, where kids would knock stuff out of my hands or bump me into a locker. And there was one occasion where in high school, it actually turned into a physical altercation. And the kid who had me, he grabbed me. We were on the bleachers in the gym, and he knocked me down over the bleachers, and he punched me a couple times, and he just kind of looked to see if he thought I was done, and he made one mistake, though. He let me back up. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about, because I got what you call a jack-in-the-box spirit, that the more you try to press me down, the more I pop back up. And maybe one of the reasons why Paul was estimated is because they thought that we shoved him down in a box. He's in a prison. He's never going to do anything else with his life. But can I just get a few folks in here who know what it's like to be pressed down and put in a box only for God to do something on the inside of you, and I jump back up. Every time you think you have me down, I'm back up. Not because of how great I am, but because I know that there's a God inside of me, that every time you try to press, the problem with the devil is dumb. Because he thought that he had you down. Okay, somebody, y'all need to clap your hands on that one. He thought he had Jesus down, but that dumb devil made one mistake. Watch this. He let me get up this morning. And I believe every time he tries to press you down and underestimate you, he's underestimating you because he doesn't understand, watch this, what's on the inside of you.